That's the controller port. And it's not showing anything.
Yeah, it is.
It's showing something. And let me go over here. Say something real loud.
Hello. Okay.
Something's wrong.
What's it recording?
It's recording something, and I can't tell where it is. But, it's just curious is all. But I don't know how much noise is actually coming through the dang old thing. Why don't you play... Oh.
Did it just go?
It did. Sure did.
Was it
sure did.
You put the phone down?
It was a couple things. And as soon as I make this a slightly more reasonable thing, there we go. The truth was...
So what did you do?
I screwed it up.
Yeah, well...
I don't know how to work my audio equipment. Literally, the cord wasn't in all the way. Welcome back to the Slouch.
Go home.
This is the 92.3 WKVR show where I'm Jdox. And I'm here with the Static.
Yes.
Intro yourself.
Static.
Give us a blurb. Tell the class for this icebreaker activity a couple interesting facts about yourself.
I will throw you out that window. I hate icebreakers.
That's one fact. That's two facts. Throw out window and hate icebreakers. We got a third one.
I hate you.
That's three. All right. Here we go. Starting off the semester right.
Except we're not starting
in late October.
We're like almost 2/3 through now.
At least Audacity's actually running.
Can you even fathom that we're like 2/3 done with the first semester of our senior year?
No, a little bit not. No, I can't.
Does anyone here who has did you send the streaming link to people who might want it? Because I remember you wanted. Yeah, I had to remind you to.
I don't think they listen. I don't think they listened last week. I don't think anyone listens. Oh,
we know someone listens.
Anyway, as we talked about,
we haven't gotten mail yet, by the way. So
yes, unfortunately, if the person who specifically messages us
every week,
Mr. K, if
we get mail like every other week, I think.
If you have messaged us, then we have not received it yet. I literally checked the mail hours before going on to the show, so unfortunately we have not gotten that letter yet, but we are ready to we're just ready to go anyway. And I wanted to talk about something in Mr. K's last message that we didn't talk about, which was he asked if people were still playing Counter-Strike and Team Fortress.
Yes.
Competitively.
The answer is yes.
And interestingly, and I won't get too much into it because I literally don't even have the article loaded, but there was, I'm sure you, Static, heard about that thing where all of the competitive pro league Counter-Strike Go players were talking about we were all on drugs. We were taking crazy stimulants, Adderall, Vyvanse.
I did not know that.
Apparently,
I generally don't keep up with that scene as I'm not very much into competitive gaming.
Me neither. Honestly, there's a dude who I'm working with a group project with in one of my classes who literally every day in class he is on his computer watching League or Dota or StarCraft or whatever else they play competitively. He's watching that on his computer the entire time.
I don't know what to think.
And the more time goes by, the more these competitive video game sports actually look like production value-wise like the NFL.
I mean, yeah, they call themselves esports. There's broadcasting networks.
They look like true broadcasting sports.
There's actual sponsorship deals.
They do pregame analyses of people's stats.
It's kind of ridiculous, to be honest.
Honestly, to esports' eternal credit, it looks very much like sports at this point. Except then it cuts to a clip of some digital wizards shooting each other with lasers or something.
Yes.
I don't know what goes on in League. I've played one game of League in my life, and I sort of consider that a mark of intense shame and degradation to a person's soul. If I know someone who plays League, I have a significantly lower opinion of them immediately.
Really?
No, I'm joking. But it is fun to just talk smack on League.
That.
Oh, okay. If the people are going to come out in defense of League of Legends, then
really like League.
Oh yeah, it becomes a dedicated thing.
I played it a little bit. I can see the appeal. It's not for me though.
Same. But the defense force comes out, and if they start coming at me, then that's whatever it is. Anyway, but so aside from esports stuff, what Mr. K was talking about with regard to esports about Counter-Strike and Team Fortress. Counter-Strike is apparently full of drugs, but Team Fortress, I have an interesting story about that, and it involves the very well-known internet meme man, Mr. Tay Zonday.
Better known as the guy who sang Chocolate Rain.
He's very famous for, and I'm queuing it up right now, the viral song Chocolate Rain.
Are you queuing up Chocolate Rain, or?
I'm queuing up Chocolate Rain.
Oh, Lord.
Hopefully we have it a little bit in the background. This is
You need to
a
turn
real
off the
old.
playlist. You got two overlapping. You hear that?
Wow, you're right. Okay. No, good point. No, good point.
Naughty.
I honestly can't believe I'm the station manager here, and I don't know how to work this as well as you apparently do. But like,
Because I'm
so
lazy doesn't mean I don't know what I'm doing.
I was wondering why there were so many different tracks in the background of Chocolate Rain that I didn't remember. Like some serious
it's
guitar.
not that layered.
Because I booted it up on the station computer, and I normally leave the playlist play, but I just turn the levels off. Okay, well, I mean, you probably know Mr. Chocolate Rain, listeners out there. What was interesting was he did a Let's Play of Team Fortress. Let's listen. Oh, come on. Oh, sorry, the
Careful.
YouTube was down. Here, let's listen.
And we are live here tonight on
This is Tazon Day, and he is doing a Let's Play of Team Fortress 2.
And we're going to try playing a little bit of multiplayer.
Because this is what internet personalities do in the year 2015 is they start playing video games on camera. And soon, DJ Static, that's going to be you and I. We're going to end up here playing video games because that's the only thing that like sells on YouTube.
You know what? Honestly,
Hold on. I got to mute that so I don't hear the stream. There we go. That actually is much better.
This is a confusing point because let's go back
why
to
is there so much audio?
let's go back to the critical moment.
Show some servers. Since we're going to do, actually, I'm just going to go to the server browser here. 30th, 20.
What's happening?
And we're going to try playing. Hold on. I have not muted my audio.
Mr. Tazon Day happened to have been plagued by some audio feedback where his voice is looping over itself as he recorded this stream. And he believed that he had solved it.
And then he
However,
spoke.
And he continued speaking, which continued looping.
Oh, Lord.
And unfortunately, as you will find in this video,
It went the whole way through.
even 5 minutes down the line, the audio becomes something like this.
Oh, no. Oh, Lord. That's nightmarish. Please make it stop.
So if you had ever wondered what the sound of a million Tazon days at once was, then well, there it is here, and let's get another glimpse real quick. Audacity is literally canceling this out right now because it doesn't like it. This is so chaotic that my Audacity recording is literally phasing it out, which, to its eternal credit, is pretty good programming. That it has that sort of audio correction. Static, you looking at your phone right now?
I am.
What are you doing?
I am reminding myself.
iTunes is up. Part of the slouch is that we play some hot dream pop in the back, and oh my gosh. So you didn't come in here prepared, right?
No.
What have you been doing? So let me real quick actually hook my computer up so that we can have it. There it is. It's always a little bit of a mess, but that's what gives it its charm, you know? So I hope, Mr. K, if you're listening, unfortunately we have not yet received a letter from you this week, but we did have if you had sent one, but we did have a very interesting story in regards to TF2 in which Tazon Day accidentally looped over himself a couple dozen times to make a nightmarish cluster broadcast of his speech.
Sounds about right.
His voice is so deep that when it's layered over itself, it really becomes a whole blanket of pure noise.
Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about on this episode?
I mean, I could go on and on about how the Trans-Pacific Partnership is the single most evil piece of legislation I've ever seen.
Let's start with that.
Or I could talk about nerdy stuff.
Okay, so we have a couple options. And for this, so here is where it branches off into the choose your own adventure. So if you want to hear about nerd stuff, continue to point B in the broadcast. And if you would like to hear about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, you can go to position E in the broadcast.
Two-sided cassette tape now?
Now, change your position now.
Do you remember those? Okay.
And here we are. We've made a decision, haven't we?
Sure we have. I can't believe you haven't heard about the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
I've heard of it, but
how,
it's
socially active you are. I wish more people would get angry about it because it's really, really bad. Pick something you don't like. It's in the Trans-Pacific Partnership. You know what SOPA and PIPA were? They in terms of internet regulation in Congress. Do you know what those were?
Yes.
Okay, so it has segments of those in there.
Sorry, I was
segments.
writing
It
something.
has segments of internet surveillance, like like basically giving the ISP even more absurd power over internet.
And I remember a couple of years ago,
Um,
SOPA and PIPA were these big, huge, crazy, scary bills about that would,
Oh, it keeps coming back
allow-
in Congress too in new forms too.
yeah,
There's
that would allow for all
CISA.
sorts of surveillance and like creepy monitoring to go on
Yeah.
in the internet.
Yeah, now there's CISA, which is also in Congress. So
Wait, SOPA,
They're-
PIPA, and CISA?
yeah,
These all have great names, great acronym
yeah,
names.
they're gonna keep trying this until they're all dead and younger people are in Congress, which I hope it is soon because this whole routine is getting very annoying.
There
Of
are
old white dudes not understanding how the internet
there are
works.
Congress members in their 80s and 90s maintaining
they're
their office
career
because
politicians.
they have not yet been voted out due to whatever sort of runaround weird strategies they have to keep themselves in office. Pay attention to, the election is coming up next year. It's not just the
Vote.
president; it's about your senators and your representatives too. You can't just vote on the one person; you have to really vote on everyone anyway.
Well, especially if you care about domestic issues. Like, the president is more influential in the international sphere, whereas Congress is more influential domestically. So, yeah, it's nice to blame Obama for this and that, or yeah, it's nice to blame Bush for a lot of things, but it's not just Bush, it's not just Obama, it's Congress.
Congress has no term limits. People have been in
Congressmen for decades.
real high-level government representation for
Decades.
40, 50 years at a time, and they're very old men.
Yep.
They're very out of touch with where the world is right now. A lot of them, and I'm saying this without a lot of backup, but I would be fair to say that they still think the Soviet Union is a large threat to the American public.
I think that's exaggerating, but I mean, you're certainly speaking to the era a lot of them came into Congress under.
Yeah, it's a bit of a joke. But
But
they're
yeah,
very out of touch.
Trans-Pacific Partnership, bad. It's got internet.
Tell me
it's
about
got very
this.
restrictive internet regulation. It grants corporations the ability to sue governments over lost profits by environmental regulation. It has human rights violations.
Which is a terrifying proposition.
It has things that could be used to cause human rights violations. You name it. Like you have an issue that you think is important. It's part of the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Okay.
It's bad.
How much do you know about it? Because I can throw out some things.
Well, what can you throw out?
Racially motivated police brutality.
I think I shouldn't have been so general then because it has to do with the economy.
I know. I'm sorry. That was
So,
far
like,
out.
I don't remember as much about the human rights stuff because I mostly focused on the internet stuff because that's personally my pet cause is freedom of information because I think ideally the internet is the great equalizer.
I was literally
Internet
about
access
to say
is the great
equalizer.
equalizer.
We're on the same page in that regard.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was about to say the great equalizer in terms of the prevalence of communication technology and
It's
the ability
also-
to share information.
It's also the world's
on a free
greatest
space.
cesspool.
And we've talked about that before in terms of the way certain internet cultures develop into these crazy, groupthink hive minds.
Yeah.
We got some people waving at us through the window over there.
I can't see them.
I have no idea who those people were.
Must be student government
We
people.
have a small window into our station that honestly nobody ever passes by for the most part. But here, I think they've entered the studio.
No.
We are currently exposed, and they are coming after us.
No.
Static, lock the door real quick.
No, I'm good.
Thank you for locking that door, Static. Now the police can't get in. That's a running joke on Please Cancel Me.
Oh,
Please,
there's threats
that I'm
for-
literally sneaking into the station.
Here's
locking
something,
the door.
and it's going to focus a bit on the digital stuff because
Go
it's
for
the Electronic Freedom Foundation or whatever. But it's it'll expand copyright terms, so that's SOPA, where they can basically just say, well, you have a thing that is a part of another thing that's part of something else that
That's
we have.
dismal.
Yeah, so it's copyrighted and now belongs to us.
Oh, dude, I can't. I wish I would be able to recite the exact story off the top of my head. But
DRM. Yes.
The Happy Birthday song, Happy Birthday to You, Happy Birthday. That was
That
copyrighted
was
by
apparently
Time Warner or
copyrighted. I was
something
not aware of that.
a long time ago. And the thing is, what is it? 50 years after the original creator has died,
Yeah.
then it becomes public domain. Time Warner, or maybe it's not Time Warner, whatever corporation. Literally, I bet if we dig down, we WKVR are owned by Time Warner.
I mean, Time
in some
Warner's
way.
got a lot of
They own mostly everything.
stuff that they own.
especially broadcast. Anyway,
expands DRM, new threats for journalism and whistleblowers. So they would make that sort of thing criminal.
Burn it down. Eat the rich.
Restrictions on fair use, which is dumb. Places greater liability on internet intermediaries. I'm not sure what that means, but here's one thing: copyright violations would now be criminalized under that, so you could get jailed for a copyright offense.
Terrifying.
Think about that. Like you say, like, you know, you were talking about like the twisted justice system in the U.S.
I just played Tay Zonde's Let's Play on the radio. They could get me for that. Tay Zonde could put me in jail.
And that's right there, like, you know, that's expanding that nonsense.
That's creepy. Anyway, wait, real quick. The Happy Birthday song. The original Happy Birthday to You. Happy Birthday, Dear Static. Happy Birthday, the song. That was copyrighted by Time Warner. And long after the original writer of it had died, it should have expired. It should have become public domain.
I thought it did already.
But no, maybe it has by now. But for the longest time, whoever owned that, maybe it was Time Warner, I don't know, they kept, like, you know, like this weird backwards way, refreshing the copyright so that nobody could actually use that song in anything. Like at a restaurant to sing you birthday over like a cupcake with a candle, or anywhere else they had to make up their own crappy birthday songs because they sat on this IP way longer than they should have legally been allowed to. And there was some loophole for that where they kept re-somethinging the actual Happy Birthday song, and they owned that for the longest time, and it was real messed up.
So basically, I just found something that would. One of the reasons the TPP's Trans-Pacific Partnership is being cited for supporting human rights violations is because it gives Malaysia privileged access to the U.S. market, and Malaysia is one of the worst offenders when it comes to human trafficking, and they've actually recently found like mass graves for the victims of human trafficking in Malaysia, as well as Vietnam, which regularly jails political dissidents and has human trafficking and child labor. So it's more of like human rights violation on like the international scale than like the stuff on a kind of a micro level.
And that's Trans-Pacific. So how many countries does that involve?
I mean, it's several.
Literally
the entire
Pacific.
I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah.
I mean, definitely enough to say U.S., Japan, Russia, Vietnam, Malaysia.
And there's another country included that's got like Sharia-based law that like really cracks down on LGBT. Is that the proper acronym, or is it changed?
Roll with it.
Yeah, it cracks down on those people. Oh wow, that sounded.
When in doubt, throw a plus on it. LGBT plus, LGBTQIA plus, because that includes the broader range.
But yeah, it's really bad, and I wish more people would get angry about it, because like they really snuck it through, like the government, and they like all of Congress has voted to fast track it. Like no one in Congress is making a fuss about it, which is very suspicious considering how fussy Congress has been lately.
About everything.
About everything decent and good.
I mean, this passed during the Obama administration, and normally Congress tries to obstructionist.
Yeah, I would say
that's a great word for it.
Obstructionist.
Yeah, to everything the government's been going on in the last 8 years.
But yeah, that's my piece on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Get mad about it. Do something. Like
do research. Learn about it yourself. Honestly, I don't know enough.
Everybody
about it.
Read up on it. Get mad. Like. Get active, please. Like no slacktivism, please. No internet mobs. Like actually do something. That'd be great.
Hey, Static, if you want to arrange a protest here at Juniata.
Oh, that'd be great. I don't think I have enough pull on campus to do that.
I don't know.
I hadn't thought about that though.
That would be real. I mean, there's a extreme lack of college activism in the country.
How would I go about doing that? Well, we can talk about this off air.
Not generally, but at least at Juniata, there's not much.
Yeah. I mean, it's still good to do anything, honestly, that brings attention to the issue.
Yeah. But that attention has to be followed by action.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
No, yeah, that's one thing. Like, people always love to talk about raising awareness. But what is your end game? You can't raise awareness infinitely. You have to do something. You can't just, I'm making more people aware of the problem. I'm such a good person. No.
Static just did a
little pat myself on the back.
Pat self on back motion.
Like, great, you're a wonderful person, blah blah blah, but like you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
You're just stroking your own ego for how conscientious you are. Wow, I'm not. I'm just channeling my rage.
The minimal amount for anything is to just be talking about it.
No, I would say talking about it is at least engaging it on an intellectual level.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, people who just raise awareness, like they just bring it up. Like it's like, oh, we have an event, where we're raising awareness. All you do is bring it up. Like no one talks about it or propose a solution, or like it's not engaged on an intellectual level. You just, oh, by the way, this is a thing, and then everybody goes home. And I don't know.
Believe me, October is breast cancer awareness month, so you would not imagine the amount of pink risen Susan G. Koenig or Comeg sort of stuff that's been around. I could go on about this. Okay, suffice to say, I believe the documentary is called Beyond the Pink, and it delves into it's sort of an expose about the whole breast cancer awareness, breast cancer research foundation that is, the pink ribbons, the pink everything. They made pink garbage cans for breast cancer, like whole garbage cans, and the NFL like latched onto it. But the whole point of this is, and I'm summarizing it in a not very articulate or organized way, is that Susan G. Koenig and this organization that is surrounding her is just a corporation, and they are producing this merchandise, all of this pink ribbon branded stuff about breast cancer, about this and that, because first off, it's a sort of thing that anyone can get behind. It is a very non-controversial issue. Like, yeah, breast cancer, you want to stop cancer. Like, no one's arguing for cancer. It's not controversial. But that the organization behind the pink ribbons and the pink marketed everything, lanyards, shirts, I don't know, everything, garbage cans, absolutely anything with a pink breast cancer ribbon on it, more or less is owned by this corporation that merchandises this, but less than 10% of the revenue from this merchandise goes to actual breast cancer research. It is a for-profit corporation.
There we go.
And further than that if this wasn't like the fakest actual, good, positive activist research group, they have this corporation has sued other breast cancer foundations for like infringing on their brand or whatever. Literally, they spent money that was meant to be generated for breast cancer research and prevention. They've taken that money, spent it on hiring lawyers to sue other breast cancer research foundations out of their money, for which those companies had to then use the breast cancer research money to hire a legal defense.
See, the
Susan G. Koenig, the pink ribbon breast cancer stuff is literally a corporation that is sucking so much money out of actual cancer research.
And they
terrible. Make the buku bucks. The CEO, the Susan Koenig, makes, and I'm sure I'm not even pronouncing her name right, is because it's very late at night and I'm exhausted, is making buku crazy bucks. They're crazy rich because this big crazy, but the entire thing generally preys on the slacktivism, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, activism in the form of consumption, where you buy this, you buy that, you get this shirt, you get this thing, you get this yogurt. You get this yogurt branded with breast cancer research, and you're consuming in a way that you believe supports good things and is a way that, makes better.
It's funny because you sound a lot like me right now. This was not on air, but I had a whole discussion with Jdox where I was like, power structures, even if they start off as a well-intentioned thing, they become self-perpetuative. They become an activist effort that left unchecked and allowed to grow too big will become a power structure unto itself and become more focused on keeping itself alive than it is about the cause it started around.
Yeah. You should always be aware of something that says, okay, if there is a sort of charity thing that says, if we get $10,000 or something for whatever reason, we will like donate that to this thing. Or like, if this happens, we will donate this amount of money to this charity. It seems like a good thing. It is essentially holding those donations hostage until they get what they want. Yeah. There was literally when the Barack Obama birth certificate calamity, I don't even know how to describe that. A farce. A farce is the word.
Yes.
Was happening. Who was it? Donald Trump said he would donate whatever crazy amount of money to whatever charity if Obama did his birth certificate thing. And so regardless of whatever the birth certificate, whatever was about, that is the dude saying, I have this amount of money that I could donate to this charity and, do some positive impact into the world, but I won't unless you do what I want.
Well, if you think about it, too, in the arena of politics in an upcoming election, it's even more insidious because not only is he holding a donation hostage, but he's making it a political statement. He's not only telling I don't think Obama was born here, but if Obama caves to that, that's a political statement in and of itself.
Yeah.
I mean, and this has already played itself out, but like, it's such a loaded situation because of the context it occurred in. Like,
It's such a gross. It's just a
a lot of
nasty
people
ultimatum.
think
It's just it's
Donald
gross.
Trump is an idiot, and I would agree, but he is somehow a master of playing the public.
Yeah. An idiot with power is dangerous in that way. Anyway, let's not dig too deep into Donald Trump
No.
because we both stand
We'll just both get
in the
angry.
same place about him. But I think it's on Netflix. I really advise anyone listening to watch. I think it's called Beyond the Pink or Behind the Pink. I'm gonna Google
Something
it real
about
quick
the
so that I
pink.
know my facts. But it's a documentary about these breast cancer foundations and how they're extremely manipulative and very deceitful. But a really poignant piece was like there was yogurt, right? Like yogurt cups at a supermarket. That's like for every yogurt cup you buy, $10 will be donated, or not $10, 10 cents will be donated to breast cancer research. And what they talk about is like you're going to eat 150 cups of yogurt, and that will donate $15 to breast cancer research. And then the woman who was talking about it was just said, just write a check. If you want to donate to breast cancer research, maybe don't do it through like this weird gratuitous consumption that then weirdly, indirectly, in a small way, does like the tiniest dent in anything. Maybe just like actually support stuff directly.
Yeah.
And like don't get caught up in these crazy marketing schemes that say by consuming our good, you are doing good for the world. Let me see.
I'm with you 100% on that. I think lazy activism is as good as no activism at all.
Yeah. Okay. I gotta find this.
What are you looking for? The documentary?
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you wanted to put on the docket?
Okay, so my entire fake title that I invented was totally wrong about it. It's called Pink Ribbons Inc.
So
That
the
is
word
Pink
pink
Ribbons
is in there.
Incorporated. Yeah. Pink Ribbons Incorporated, a 2011 documentary.
I thought you were going to say a
It's
2001
not
Space
that
Odyssey.
old. But a fantastic piece. I've loved it. I've watched it. I somehow have not been able to remember the name of it, but it is called Pink Ribbons Inc. Let's see a little blurb. Breast cancer, from IMDb, a little blurb. Breast cancer has become the poster child of corporate cause-related marketing campaigns. Countless women and men walk, bike, climb, and shop for the cure. Each year, millions of dollars are raised in the name of breast cancer. But where does this money go, and what does it actually achieve? Pink Ribbons Incorporated is a feature documentary that shows how the devastating reality of breast cancer, which marketing experts have labeled a dream cause, the marketing people love this, becomes obfuscated by a shiny pink story of success. Anyway, and that was a quote from the National Film Board of Canada. So look up Pink Ribbons Inc. I remember it having been on Netflix. I hope
Might
it still
not be
is
anymore.
right now. Okay. We have other things to talk about. Hold up real quick.
Hey, you probably have something.
We got royally screwed up last week.
You were so mad.
I'm still salty about it because we lost over an hour of good conversation.
Yeah.
Lost to the void, to the abyss.
Yep.
It is residing in oblivion right now, and I can't have it.
It's gone forever.
I had some other things to talk about.
Yeah, you did. You always do.
I mean, it's gotten to the point where I've been saving things that I come across my Tumblr feed, like good social things, good like nice quotes that'll maybe spark some conversation. I mean, right?
I just love how you defined our relationship as a Tumblr Reddit relationship. I don't know what that says about me.
That hinges a lot on you if you want to be Reddit. If you're not comfortable with that, then that's fine.
My alternative is 4chan, which is like the loud, unclean, terrible person in the corner.
I will be extremely far left if need be.
I am just very middle of the road, apparently.
And we're gonna figure that out. We're gonna talk about it.
So what's your thing?
Well, boy, if I don't have to actually search through and find it right now.
Goody.
You want to talk about something?
I mean.
Oh, I had an idea. You want to talk about the arbitrary gender presentation binary and restriction, and like how masculinity is very toxic. I had a really good quote about toxic
You said a
masculinity.
lot of things that I really don't agree with at all. So if you want to talk about
I had
them,
a really great
feel free.
quote about toxic masculinity somewhere in my blog. And
Okay, before we go into this, can I just say I'm very sick of hearing the word toxic?
Well,
it's become so, I don't know. I feel like words, they're not blunt instruments. They're fine tools, and if you overuse it, it becomes a blunt instrument with less meaning than it used to have. And people use toxic, and they slap it in front of things they don't like. And it's to me, I see the word toxic, and it speaks to a greater mentality that person has that really just kind of, maybe this argument isn't as great as it could be. And that's just me, though. I don't think that's a common like, I don't even think that's something you hear a lot on the internet or read a lot, because I don't know. I think you shouldn't overuse a word. I think words have power, and each word every language has such a vast array of words. There's always a word for the situation. You don't need to take one word and overuse it.
So this is an excerpt from a really cool book, which is called Masculinity is Killing Men.
No.
The Roots of Men and Trauma by Callie Holloway. And it's... Shit, I lost it. But it's something I want to talk about. Honestly, and you know me, Static, you know me as a person, and I've been experimenting with certain things. I've been growing my hair out long. I got my ears pierced. I've been putting a nail polish on. Look at this nice seafoam green right now that I just got today. I went out and I went to the grocery store and I got some nice nail polish for myself.
I have long hair, but that's because I can't be bothered to get a haircut.
Yeah. But I've been sort of trying to...
Which means I wake up with like crazy looking sex hair when I just took a nap.
That's cool. That's real cool.
My roommates think it's
funny. You're getting crazy sex hair with, rest. Getting jiggy with it.
Yeah.
Anyway. But I've been trying to, in a very small way, dissolve some gender restrictions on myself. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Do you feel... I don't know.
I'm experimenting with it is all. So what I've been thinking about a lot recently is the idea that, so in like early to mid 20th century, there was a big thing about women being able to wear pants instead of like just dresses.
Yes.
That pants were like a male thing, just for men, and women are just like,
I hate pants.
We should be able to wear these pants. Well, they're pretty utilitarian. They're better for doing, good work, good down and dirty, like labor
shorts.
type stuff.
I prefer shorts. I'm not a fan of being covered up.
Yeah. So that was a big thing, though. And that was a big gender boundary thing. That so women started wearing pants.
Yes.
And they, got onto that male thing. It's the year 2015, and men still don't wear skirts or dresses.
Yes.
And we want to talk about...
Except kilts are a thing.
Kilts have... that always comes up every time I try to talk about this. But let's put that off to the side because that is a cultural thing. And it's significant that why is that an exception to it? But also, why is the idea of kilts... And if anyone listening, you don't know, Jdox is a real Scotsman. He plays the bagpipes. He has a kilt. I wear a kilt all the time. But you always get the joke... Is that a skirt? Are you wearing underpants underneath that? And
well, I mean, if you're wearing a utility kilt, I can understand why people would ask that.
It's just a weird thing, right?
That's what it's called, right? A utility kilt?
Imagine outside of a kilt, outside of that cultural idea of a man wearing something in the shape of a skirt. If you're wearing just a skirt or just a dress, that's weird, yeah? You're not doubt about that because that's the gender binary. That's the boundaries, but I hope I'm getting through with this, that it's really very arbitrary. It is the certain shape and arrangement of cloth that you wear to protect and or conceal yourself. And it was for the longest time, men wear pants, women wear skirts, and then women fantastically crossed that boundary to say we're wearing pants now, and they did, and they then in the 80s they're wearing suits and they're killing it, and that's fantastic. Men, however, are still very held up on a lot of clothing where it's generally culturally not acceptable that a guy wears a dress or a skirt or heels or expand that onto anything else. Nail polish, makeup, anything. So why are we so restricted with gender like that? That's what I've sort of been talking about in my brain to myself.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
You just were saying a sentence and then you stopped.
Sorry. Okay. So in my media studies here at Juniata College, and we're going to throw out real quick, our opinions do not reflect the WKVR Juniata College. That's our obligation to say that. I watched a documentary called Codes of Gender. And this is a fantastic documentary. I hope everyone watches it. It's like Static. I hope you watch it because it's liberating, to the mind. Because it focuses on the idea that gender is a presentation. You wear this certain type of clothes. You show yourself physically in a certain type of way, and that establishes your gender. I mean, depending on like what kind of shirts, like what kind of pants or dress or what kind of anything else you adorn your body with establishes your gender. But the idea is that is a presentation that you do out into the world, and that is very arbitrary. That it doesn't like.
But what's the rationale that it's arbitrary? I've not heard any reason why it's arbitrary, because I could cite, the fact that we are a sexually dimorphic species as the reason that the binary exists.
Okay, so how does a skirt suit a vagina but is totally incompatible with a penis?
I mean, to be honest, I can't think of a reason, but you talked about dresses, and the reason men look silly in a dress, and I'm not saying that's my view, that's the general
That's the culture.
That's the general view of society.
That's the culture. Yes.
Because personally, you can wear whatever you want. I can think you look weird, but I think people look weird wearing normal clothes too. So I'm a judgmental, terrible person. But
it comes down
the reason men look silly in a dress is because dresses are designed in such a way. The very article of clothing in and of itself, a dress, is designed to highlight the various physical characteristics of a female. It's designed to highlight the shape. It hugs the contours of the body, which men do not have those kinds of contours. Let's be honest.
What's wrong with the contours of the man, though? It's not as exaggerated like in, out. But it's like the dude's body has a contour. Why isn't that as sexy and, gender specific as it is for like a woman wearing a dress?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's something that I find very interesting, not probably the same way you do, but the interesting ways to think about the cause and effect of biology and social constructs, which I think you would call, stuff like this a social construct.
That's exactly what I would
the
say
term social construct, I think, is a little misleading because I wouldn't say it's purely arbitrarily made for the sake of a functioning society. I would say it's probably something that comes from a way humans are wired, if that makes any sense. And not that we can't, to go with the wiring thing, not that we can't, not that we're all 100% beholden to our programming per se, but I don't know. But, I would say the reason women probably are considered more, I guess their bodies are considered more quote unquote beautiful, is probably there's inherent reproductive value in a woman. They basically grow a life inside of them, and they are the limiting factor on population growth. You can have a whole bunch of men in a room and one woman. That one woman is the whole limiting factor on how much population growth you're going to have. Whereas you could have a room full of women and one man, and each of those women could carry a child. And so women have inherently more reproductive value than men, which is why they would highlight the things that have to do with reproductive function.
Wait, but how is
such
that
as the secondary sex characteristics, like the hips, the chest, the butt.
So that goes back to like the way clothing emphasizes the sexuality of anybody.
Yes.
But that does. I don't know. Does that influence like the source of like where the culture of these certain articles of clothing like is just divided between men and women? Like, I don't know, maybe, but it's like you have a certain amount of like cloth covering like your bottom half, and it's a matter of if it's connected in the middle and then separated into two different bits or not that, differentiates pants from a skirt. So let's move aside from that, and I'm going to talk about something that I've been experimenting with myself, and that is nail polish. Yeah. There's nothing inherently sexual or reproductive in any way about
No.
putting certain pigment on the, the hard plate tissue on the end of your fingers.
No.
But that has become intrinsically female in the culture. I
think it's just because the average male really can't be bothered.
Well, the average woman can be bothered. So what does that say about the culture where it expects more of the appearance maintenance of the woman than the man?
I wouldn't say it expects. I think people just do it because they like it. I mean, you do it. There are men who put on nail polish and makeup, and they do it because they want.
But it's perceived as deviant,
they
in
do
that
it
way.
because they want to, and women do this because they want to. I mean, it's silly to expect that women are mindless drones following what society expects. I mean, people put on makeup and cosmetics because they want to.
But everyone is influenced by the culture that they grow up in. You're young girls are expected to start putting on makeup at before they're in their teens or something. I've seen toddlers, very young girls with their ears pierced.
I mean, that's
with makeup on.
That's on their parents though.
But their parents are doing that because
that's not the culture. That's their parents.
No, but their parents are influenced by the culture. My key point is that it's all encultured. There's the cultural expectation that women do this and this and this to have this appearance that really designates them yes, you are of a female sex, and so you have to present that in this and this and this way based on the culture, whether that's makeup or nail polish or being a dress or having your hair long. Even hair length is nothing.
I mean people already know there's different brain chemistries between the sexes. I mean, it stands to reason that people, that would influence things they want. I don't think it's just society saying you have to adhere to this strict standard. I mean, there are roles that society imposes to some extent, and I would agree that they're a little rigid and absurd at times, but I think saying that everything is arbitrary and nothing is right is a little silly and out there.
I understand where you're coming from, and that's
you made a face, though.
I did make a face because I really a whole bunch of a lot of ways disagree with what you said.
There's different brain chemistry?
Well, there is different brain chemistry, especially in the way, different genders' endocrine system works. But that doesn't – if that did initially, thousands of years ago, somehow influence the way that anyone's clothes or any sort of pigment applied to one's body works, thousands of years later – that is still so deeply rooted, right? Where not only that it's expected that a male or a female dress and appear a certain way, but that if you do anything other than that, there is a certain stigma and there is a certain perception of that's weird and that's deviant. Where so a lot of this has come about in my brain because
look at it the way I put it earlier in that. Women are allowed more freedom in how they dress because they have inherent reproductive value. You would agree with that statement, yes?
No, I wouldn't.
You would not.
Appearance freedom? I would say that there's
in the sense
more...
that they have more clothing options in the sense that, and when I say options, it may not be options in the sense that women are allowed to dress in a way that explicitly shows off their bodies. Am I wording that right? Whereas it's considered deviant for men to do so. Yes?
I would say that that men cannot culturally it's not acceptable for a man to express their bodies in the way that a lot of women are expected to do.
Probably an outgrowth of the inherent reproductive value of a female. And I would say probably the reason it's considered deviant for men, regardless of whether we get into the issue of brain chemistry and the tendencies for men to show off or women to show off, because I can't speak to those issues because I've not done any research on them. Men do not have that inherent reproductive value, and so a man dressing like that, the way that's typically society codes as female, basically a man presenting as a woman without the inherent value of a woman in terms of reproduction would probably have been met in early societies with scorn, because you're presenting as a woman, you're functioning as a woman, but you do not have the capability of a woman in terms of furthering, that inherent reproductive value.
Okay.
And I would say, I don't think it's necessarily right that we're still bound by all these rules.
Not right
but
at all.
Look at, we're not that fundamentally different from those humans in the sense that evolution is not really super fast. there's not a whole lot separating us from those early humans, aside from a few things like height and
No,
maybe some
biologically,
vestigial,
no.
maybe some vestigial organs.
What I'm talking
but hold
about-
on. I'm saying culture is an outgrowth of biological function here. That's why I'm saying, like, culture did
I
not
would
just
say
come
that's
out of
debatable.
nowhere.
No,
It
definitely it
didn't
was
just come out of
influenced
nowhere.
by, but
You're
it has
saying
changed
it's
a lot.
arbitrary, but then where did it come from, Jdox?
I'm not saying it didn't come from a certain place or whatever, because I honestly don't know about that. Thousands of years ago when human society was starting out, boy, I don't know. But the thing is that culture is so deeply rooted right now. And as much and this gets back to a big thing, as much arguments as you put out for like this was some sort of like biological reproductive like impulse from like tens of thousands of years ago, like very early humans, that gets into what was it? What's it called? Like evolutionary psychology or evolutionary sociology.
Mm-hmm.
There is something to be said for that, but like, you know, generally, and like I will actually be totally vehement about this, is that I don't accept like some primordial biological influence on like the way that society and culture functions in the 21st century, because we should be far and well separated from that to the point at least where we can recognize and like, you know, make sense of how it works.
We should, but we're not.
So my point is,
look at the fact that we're seeing tribal behaviors reemerge on the internet. So we're still very much the ancient human in the sense that we see something we don't like, we get all irrational and we go crazy.
Exactly. And so my point is, for whatever reason, when people invented clothes tens of thousands of years ago.
It sounds so arbitrary.
It is arbitrary.
It's not.
For whatever, I mean, no, like it was influenced by something or other. But that's not, that same biological sense hasn't been like unaffected over tens of thousands of years of like cultural progress. Like, so like we're not still like sticking to the biological impulses of what to wear and what to put on your skin. The point is, whatever maybe like would have caused tens of thousands of years ago some people to say like, well, let's put this like pigment on like your face to like be more attractive to males or something, is that in the year 2015 when we're going to Mars or something, is that and we're in central Pennsylvania, if I put on the pigment on my face in a way that a woman would, I might get my ass kicked.
Yeah.
I might get beaten within an inch of my life, because the culture, first off, inherently defined the very strict coding. You use the word is exactly the word. You code your gender in the way you present yourself, in the way you talk, in like everything about yourself is the presentation of your gender and like the establishment of your gender. But if you go outside of that at all, if you're in the least bit way confusing, where I have a beard and I have eyeshadow on, then that is stigmatized. Then that is seen as deviant and weird in a certain way, and that's extremely negative.
Well, I think it has to do with human psychology in the sense that, you know, stereotypes exist for a reason, both in terms of the fact that they're overgeneralizations and the fact that people tend to categorize based on appearance, and appearance and stereotypes are visual shorthands, mental shorthand for categorization. So when you see something presenting as female, you make the assumption of female, you make the assumption of a lot of things. And when you're presented with, oh, it's not, it's jarring for a lot of people, and they can't handle that.
You get confusing signals.
They can't handle the conflicting signals.
And I understand the argument there from like the psychological or from like the primordial biological direction. I do not accept that as rationalization, though. That's not justifying. I mean, in the culture of the 21st century, we should be able to like intellectually identify this kind of stuff and say that this is extremely restrictive, it is extremely dangerous.
How is it dangerous?
For people who are beaten for not conforming to the gender binary.
Fair.
And people who are transgender, people who are intersex or intergender. Well, I have a distinct friend who like identifies as both and neither gender, and in a lot of parts of the world, people are assaulted for that. And I mean, okay, so I want to talk about this documentary, Codes of Gender, which was fantastic. I really want to send you where to find it. I think it's on Netflix. But there was a scene, it was like an SNL character or something called Pat. And Pat was an androgyne, an androgynous individual presenting somewhere very much between male and female in a way that was not clear either way. And there was like a whole movie about it or something, but the entire crux of this character was that they and I use they as neither male or female because like it's meant to be ambiguous, experience a tremendous amount of hostility because and the whole idea behind this, which the documentary delves into, is that when that person meets somebody, you can't identify immediately what gender that is, and then you can't like start behaving towards that individual in the way that you're encultured to or socialized to behave towards either gender. So you're confused about how to treat that person because you're not sure of what their gender is.
Well, yeah. I mean, why do you assume it's socialized though?
Because what's the biological impulse for that? Well,
Reproduction.
Biological impulse.
Reproduction. For the vast majority of people, it's reproduction.
I don't.
Whether you're
I don't accept like
whether you're gay or straight. You see the visual coding for the whatever you're attracted to. You act on that. When you can't categorize someone, it makes you uncomfortable. And how do you react when you're stuck in an uncomfortable situation?
Yeah, you get defensive about it, and that can turn into hostility.
Exactly.
And that is what I'm saying is not acceptable. And so you have these biological or these like ingrained psychological arguments for it. I'm saying that's not acceptable.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying calling it arbitrary is a little much. It's rooted in psychology and physiology.
The perpetuation of that is the culture, though.
I don't think so. We still are biologically wired to act this way.
Now, if you were looking
There's
at someone,
a reason psychologists still have jobs. There's a reason neuroscience is such a big field right now. We are a byproduct of the various physical functions that allow us to continue living. Consciousness is a byproduct of the brain process and the endocrine system and all the various things that affect your mood and state of being that are rooted in your physicality.
My mindset is that we are like the culture and the society has progressed to a point, and where we're having intellectual discussions like this, that it shouldn't be like your reaction to anyone that you meet, like at any point in your life, if you just meet somebody or if you even see somebody on the street, that your response shouldn't be like rooted in reproductive biology. And so if you met somebody buck naked and you couldn't tell what biological sex that person was by looking at them in the nude,
that would be a little uncomfortable.
That would be very confusing. However, the biological sex has been extrapolated onto gender in the way of presentation, about if like makeup, like nail polish, dress, pants, beard, every bit of presentation, the visual presentation, aside from just what your reproductive organs are, and the reproductive organs would, determine how you respond to somebody's reproductive ability in this biological sense, but it's extrapolated onto your behavior, your physical appearance, non-primary sexual characteristics appearance, and the clothing you wear. The fact that is then associated with the, potential for that extreme gender confusion, which then leads to hostility and violence in a world, and this is the context I'm talking about, where transgender or intersex individuals, because of this hostility that they experience in the world, in the culture, in people's perceptions of them, because they don't know how to deal with not knowing if they're like a potential reproductive partner or not, lead some people to exert extreme physical violence, often murder, onto transgender and intersex individuals. That is my problem with it.
You are right to have a problem with it. Unfortunately, the vast majority of people are both somewhat irrational and, I don't know, I can't speak to the percentage of educated people in the U.S., but probably not educated on this sort of stuff in general. I mean, you can't expect everyone to be like the people in an academic setting. People are rooted in their biology, and a lot of people react to discomfort very extremely. You and I, we react intellectually because that's the kind of people we are, but not everyone's like that, and you can't expect everyone to behave the same. And it's horrible for me to say that, but you have to take steps to protect yourself and you can't expect the best from everyone because that's just not how people are.
My problem with that argument, and you're right, because that is, the state of affairs. And you're right that is how it is, and that is how people react, because that is for whatever like biology that extends into like the cultural and the socialization of people in regards to like gender or sexuality. that argument that like this is how it is, and you've said before that like, you know, life is tough, things aren't fair, like this is sort of how it is in this negative way, that I perceive that like lends to complacency into it.
No, it leads to self-protecting behavior, which is what people should do. You should protect yourself. You shouldn't expect everyone to protect you for you. You are the only entity that can control your own behavior. And the only person whose behavior you can control 100% is your own. Everyone else, there's a degree of uncertainty in how they will act and how they will react. And you can develop and internalize certain predictive, I guess, models in your head, but even still, you can't 100% know how people are going to react to things. So it makes sense for people to protect themselves.
And that's true. And unfortunately, that's the reality for a lot of people who need to be very cautious and, you know, end up with their lives being very stressful because of, you know, the way the culture and the society reacts in a very negative, very hostile way towards them. Like, and so that lends to a real individualistic narrative about like, you're responsible for you. You got to like look out for you and you got to be aware for that. And you can't change these other people. And that's true.
I never said I can't change people. I just said you got to protect yourself.
But yeah, but that seems like a really limited narrative to me, where like that then your entire agency regards only to yourself. But that doesn't say like, what I'm saying about this is that the culture needs to change. The cultural perception of a very restrictive gender binary in terms of presentation and in terms of identification that leads to hostility and violence is not acceptable. And it is a reality, and I regard that because, I mean, there are people, and that's how people are and cultured and socialized to perceive things. What I'm saying is it's not acceptable, and that we need to change that to like not be as like reactionary and violent.
I would say the violence is unacceptable, but let's be realistic here. You're talking about a statistical minority. Don't expect the binary to just disappear one day. Unless we suddenly stop being a sexually dimorphic species, people will continue using aspects of presentation one way or another. You know, we might move past the dresses and makeup eventually if humanity makes it that long, which I'm doubtful. But if humanity makes it that long, we could move past the current visual coding for genders. But so long as we remain a primarily sexually dimorphic species, we're going to find ways to differentiate ourselves because, honestly, life exists to perpetuate itself. That is one of our strongest instincts, is the instinct to mate and have children and reproduce and pass on some sort of legacy.
And I'm a big old transhumanist. I say, I mean, the biological, genetic, evolutionary, whatever the heck that's gotten us this far, but like we're real people with real technology and we're making AIs or something. It's like, it's, you know, it's time that intellectually we can move past that. And so what I'm saying, so like, you can't separate
yourself from your biology, though. Not 100%.
You can separate the cultural and social implications of gender from your sexuality, though. So I would argue that gender dimorphism is a construct, is a social construct, and that gender dimorphism is, you know, guys wear beards and have shirts and pants and like boots, and that women have like long hair and makeup and painted nails and dresses. That's gender dimorphism. And that is the presentation. And that is the sort of, to a certain extent, like arbitrary. That is just the culture and the socialization. There is sexual dimorphism, depending on whether an individual has a penis or a vagina, and that informs reproductive stuff. But to disassociate gender with sex, because sex is about what
I think you're a little too optimistic. I mean, I agree. It doesn't apply to everyone.
Super idealist.
I don't think it applies to everyone, but again, it's a very small statistical minority, and that's unfortunate. But for a lot of people, the visual shorthand and the fact of whatever is in their pants, they line up, and so they don't bother with it. Doesn't bother them that much.
And that's the cis majority. Absolutely, that's that's the cisgender majority. What is cisgender? CIS-gender. So that is to say that the cultural perception of the cultural perception of male with, you know, beard and muscles and pants and a penis, that if you're cisgendered, you fit into that identity. You are comfortable being muscles and beard and penis, and you also have a penis. And that is, if your gender lines up with your physical sex, then that's being cisgendered. Because, it works like that.
I just don't understand how you're so easily discounting brain chemistry here in desiring to present yourself a certain way. I mean, can it not be said?
I don't think there's any genetic or neurochemical implication to put nail polish on.
I'm not talking about nail polish. I'm talking about feminine presentation.
Okay,
nail polish is not inherently feminine anymore.
Exactly, which is clearly evident by the fact that me, Jdox, is in here with this great seafoam. I'm getting good, right? This is good. This is a good coat. I'm getting better at putting this on.
But I would say, honestly, like stuff like nail polish, there was a brief period after World War II where, like the stereotypical 50s where, roles racially and gender-wise became very strict. But I think that's the exception, not the norm. And we're kind of coming back from that. But, I mean, historically, wealthy men would dress extravagantly like women, and they would wear different makeup than women, but they would wear makeup, they would paint their nails. I mean, it's
high-heeled shoes were invented for men initially.
Right, I'm saying, and I think those things are not. I think you're looking at what you're calling the gender binary the wrong way. You're looking at it from a very recent perspective.
Well, recently it's like, I mean, if in the past there was like a little more fluidity to it in these ways.
I don't know if it was fluid. I think it was just defined differently.
Yeah.
It's about status symbols.
Like long term, there is fluidity to gender presentation between, hundreds of years ago and now.
It has to do with the environment they're growing up in the sense that the economic reality of, like a lot of the stuff was symbols of status more so than it was gender signaling. Now it's gender signaling.
Yeah. So what I'm saying then for right now is that, I mean, so whatever like biological or reproductive thing like went into however people like present themselves like thousands of years ago, what I'm saying is that like nowadays when people are so advanced, it's still bound in certain ways to brain chemistry and biological urges and whatnot. We should be able to intellectually look at the culture of gender and like the restrictions it puts on us and on these levels of expression, and say that this, not to disregard whatever this came from, like whatever the etymology of these presentations, like of putting on nail polish or not, whatever those come from, because those are important. But to say right now, there's no point in adhering to those traditions necessarily, because like we're able to really think about like there's no point in restricting people's gender expressions like this.
But there is a point. It's the reproductive signaling. That's what people use it for.
See, I don't know. I think in the 21st century,
well, you're focused on masculinity. Let's flip this.
Okay.
Because women are allowed more leeway. So what would you say is unacceptable for women in terms of presentation?
Body hair.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't know. That's the top of my head.
Well, I'm just curious because you're focusing on...
I mean, to a certain extent, lack of makeup, lack of a certain kempt hair structure. I mean, in a small extent, not so much as it was decades ago, like to have very short hair as a woman is still stigmatized to a certain extent.
I don't think so.
I think so. I mean, think about like you have a woman with very short hair, a woman with a crew cut. The term butch comes to mind. There's a certain extent of stigmatization that this still has. If a woman goes about professionally without like any makeup, anything, any specifically female presentation like that, of makeup, nail polish, dress, like looking a certain way, hairdo in a certain way, there is a stigmatization to that says like it's not feminine. It's not. You would say that the woman's unkempt. You'd say that the woman is like sloppy or something, or doesn't care about her appearance because she's not adhering to the expectations of her appearance as, is defined by the gender binary.
What would interest me and really probably inform my opinion on this would be if there were like a really good survey of opinion, I guess, on like why do people dress, or why do people want to dress the way they do? Why do people dress the way they do? Because I know there's a degree of outrage over these things, but is it a vocal minority, or is it really that everybody hates this and there's like an unspoken rule? Because I see what you're saying, and I just think saying it's arbitrary is going a little overboard. I agree that gender roles are restrictive. I don't think we should do away with the binary. I think it serves a purpose. And I think
the purpose is outdated.
I would say
think
it's
on
not.
an intellectual level, like, people have come very far. Our culture is very self-reflective, very introspective. We can understand these things and we can identify them, like, on this intellectual level where we say, like, this is not necessary. As we're at a point, like, where gender expression and sexual expression is becoming more open than it was, like, decades ago. And at this point, especially in, like, the developed first world American culture sort of sense, is that, like, it shouldn't still be this restrictive. And I think,
agree.
and
It
I think,
shouldn't- it
and
shouldn't
I,
be restrictive.
and I think honestly, it's extremely liberating, especially in my experience, to step outside of your, the restrictions of your gender expression, which I've been doing and has been hard because you grow up and you're encultured to think to express yourself in a certain way, and it has been like a challenge. I've had to go over some mental and emotional hurdles to do stuff where I've, like, pierced my ears and I've started painting my nails because there's a deep down level of me that says
Would
this
you
is
wear
not.
a dress?
I would. That's something sort of on the horizon for me. Something I want to sort of expand into next. But there's really a large mental barrier there because a large part of my mind, and I don't think it is biological. I think it's. I mean, maybe like way back when you can source it to some biological thing, but I think it's really encultured in my mind. It's really, like, socialized in my mind that say this is not how my body should be. That, like, I'm adorned in this way or that. And I think that's the restrictive gender presentation culture, and that's something I've been getting. That's a barrier I've been getting past in my mind to be able to express myself in more ways. And in the last couple months and stuff, like, earrings and nail polish has been on my radar. When you go into a store or something and you're thinking about, like, if you want to, like, shop for however way you want to present yourself aesthetically, you have more options and, like, more ideas and more freedom in that way, and it's incredibly liberating. And I, like, encourage any cisgendered heterosexual dudes listening, like, I mean, explore that. Explore certain, like, visual representations of yourself that are, like, perceived to be very feminine, and see where that takes you. Because whether or not you want to use it or not, having something like this, like the option to have your nails a certain way, to have your face makeup a certain way, to have your, like, piercings a certain way, if those options, like, aren't blocked off, then that's incredibly liberating. It's like if there were it's like in a video game, if there were, like, certain, like, you make a character male or female and there's certain class skills or something depending on what gender you chose at the beginning. I mean, if you're playing through a male character and there were certain skill trees locked off because you were playing as a male character, that's some shit. Why shouldn't I be able to have those? And to get outside of that is, like, you've opened up more stuff for yourself. And if anyone's listening, if you're feeling weirded out by this idea, then I think that is the idea of this stuff pushing at the cultured idea of this is how your gender presents itself, and you shouldn't go outside of that. I think it's pushing against that barrier. And that's something that I've been pushing at myself internally.
I mean, I would agree that gender roles are somewhat restrictive. I just don't think quite in the same way you do. I think I've never had any desire to do any of these things. And it's not like a barrier in my head, like I can't, because I have done them. And I was just like, well, this isn't that exciting.
I'm not going to say...
I dress and I present myself in a way that shows off my best features. I have a weak chin. I grow a beard. My shoulders look better in collared shirts. My legs are shown off when I wear shorts. That's really all there is to it.
And I would argue to a certain extent, what looks good.
That's biological, dude.
I disagree. I think that's very cultural.
Imagine
if the culture said that dudes wear dresses and women wear pants initially, but then your perception of yourself might be that you look that you naturally.
But look at the difference between men and women's pants.
What does that mean?
Men's pants are very loose fitting. Women and utilitarian. If they show off anything, it's the butt. It's a muscly butt. or legs, muscly legs. Women's pants are very close. They have no pockets. They're form-fitting. They show off the hips, the butt, the legs if they have legs. Good, well, shapely legs.
And I'm saying that's socialized. That's culture. That's not a biological thing. The biological imperatives of the body do not determine like if pants have pockets. I don't know. It relies on that. It traces back to that. But the culture says
I'm saying the
that,
culture
like,
is shaped by biology.
Pants
though.
present a certain way, and I'm saying if we're aware of that, we can get past it.
I don't think we
free
can.
ourselves.
I don't think we're at that point as a species yet.
I'm saying we gotta get to that point. It's not gonna get there unless we don't make it, and that's what I'm trying to make it.
I mean, we're getting there slowly.
Because what I'm saying is that we are, to any sort of extent, the culture and the socialization determines our standards of beauty. And I'm saying in an alternate world, if the standards of beauty would say that men wear makeup and men have like eyeshadow and nail polish and stuff, if that were the idea of male beauty, then I think in that culture, in a parallel world where you exist in that culture, I think you would say that naturally makeup and nail polish looks better on you, in the same way that you just said that pants and a beard and button-down shirts look better on you, because that is the gender code.
I don't think so. I think you're taking a very extreme view and attributing everything to culture. I think while yes, there is some probable variation in certain things that are seen attractive due to, common notions held in culture, common ideas get fed to young people, I would say
fed to everybody. Sorry.
There are some things that are constant. Wide hips have always been seen as attractive in women. The chest has always been something of interest to men. But, you look at old art and, women were a lot meatier. And the thin woman is very much something that has come about in the last few decades. And I would say that is a cultural thing. That is something that's not primarily biological.
I'm not trying to discount the idea of the biological.
I'm just trying to get you to accept the fact that not everything is arbitrary.
Oh, it's not necessary.
But you're saying everything is arbitrary, that everything is cultural, and that if we are all enlightened and self-actualized, that we can all just somehow push past our biological impulses. I'm saying we can't. We are limited existences.
I'm saying that we have the intellectual capability to push past biological and reproductive stuff.
I'm saying I will meet you halfway in saying I think we can be civil with people who don't present in ways that align with our views.
A lot of people don't. And that's where the culture fails.
Yes, but you can't expect everyone to be civil. But I would say
you should.
Yes, but that's a logical fallacy, and I'm not going to be that guy, so I'm not going to go into it. But you can't conflate should with is. And I would say that you have to accept that on some level people are biologically predisposed to certain behaviors. That being said, there are aspects of what is accepted and what is not that are accepted by culture. But to say that everything stems from culture is silly, because what is the basis for culture then? Culture doesn't just invent itself.
That's true.
And you can't just push past it on the power of intellect alone. I mean, men are predisposed to aggressive behavior. Would you not agree? That is a biological thing. Testosterone has been proven to be correlated with aggressive behavior, and people who have an excess of that show that excessive violent tendency. And that's not a cultural thing. People are wired that way. And on some level, self-control is something you work towards. But the fact that you're getting angry and violently moving your arms around like that is a very male thing to do. You would not see a female do that.
Be as aggressive in my argument.
A female would not do that. You would not get
cultured to be aggressive as a guy.
Well, no. There's a difference between anger and aggression. You would get angry, but you would not be doing the literally primordial signs of physical aggression, waving your arms around, widening your eyes. You are going back to that primordial state of showing aggression. We cannot remove ourselves from our biology. We can act around it, but we can't remove it from the picture entirely. Would you not agree with me there?
Well, yeah, not entirely. But
a
lot of what I'm arguing is that we should be trying to move around it. And I'm not trying to totally disregard the biological source of whatever all this stuff is. But I'm all I'm saying that that it informs the culture builds off of it. But the culture is far more malleable than the actual genetic structure of the brains.
I would disagree in the short term that the culture is far more rigid.
Oh, the culture is crazy rigid. That's what I'm talking about.
Here's the thing. And I'm not necessarily going to articulate this well. And this is not something I've read anywhere. This is literally something that just kind of came to me a few minutes ago. But as I see it, the culture is something that comes out of biologically predisposed behavior. But since it's an overgeneralization, by definition, it's restrictive. And that's unfortunate. But that is how it is.
It is how it is. Again, I've said it before, it seems like an excuse for it. It seems like a justification for it, and it's definitely an explanation for it. But that's not acceptable to me. We got